Here, we're back for part 2 of the base. Today we're actually going to start building the base, which will be nice. This is the hub module we're in testing right now to make sure it all fits together. This is the Trans-planetary base systems mod that adds all these nice little base parts and connectors and whatnot. There's a nice little cupola thing module on the front of that one. This one's the greenhouse module, which has all the plants and stuff, you know, because you gotta eat. That's always nice. Just laying them all out next to the pad for make sure they all fit together nicely. You have to do this weird little parallel parking thing here, but that's fine. And the wheels are really annoying though, even though they're nice to have. They if you press forward and turn at the same time, they don't do anything. So you have to only press forward and then turn after it. Yeah, it makes it annoying. Eventually we get lined up and just yeah, it's weird, but it gets done. Yeah, the docking ports have to line up absolutely perfectly. In space, the magnets usually take care of that because they can adjust, but because there's a ground and gravity, they can't really push itself down, so you have to make sure they're perfectly level, which is why having one mod for all the base parts is good, because it means they're all going to be at the same height. We're only going to be launching 2 base modules at a time. There are only 4, so it's only going to be 2 launches, but just because you can only really fit 2 nicely in one rocket. So those first 2 are the ones that we'll be sending today. These next 2 are the ones we'll be sending next time. Have to pop the chutes on that one because I kind of lost control of it. We're just making sure these all fit together. These ones have the orange tanks on the outside rather than tank modules on the thing, so it looks a little nicer, a little smaller, a little more compact. Although it is a pain to wire all those tanks together with the pipeline yellow things. But it gets done. The door on the back of this one is upside down. That will be fixed for the actual version that gets sent there. So that's nice. Driving up, trying to connect it. For some reason I have the wheels up trying to connect it, even though that didn't work last time. And there we go, okay. Fold the wheels in with the action group, because having an action group there is nice. But the wheel's broken on this one, so although thankfully it actually drives quite well even though it's broken. Which you'll see later is a good thing. Not in this episode. Yeah, and we're not quite lined up, so I kind of use the engines to give it a bit of a kick into place. There we go. Alright, time to fit the last one on the back. Hover it over there, with the gear extended just for the landing. And pop the chutes. I do have probably too many chutes on there. It's not super realistic to have 8 parachutes on this thing. But it's not a big deal. The wheels are also kind of like tilted inward. They're not on straight, which is strange. Doesn't matter, a bit of a drive later. The little back module there isn't connected right. It's weird. I don't get it. Just kind of droops off when I time warp, but fine. Doesn't end up causing any issues later on, so I'm not too worried about it. Just pulling in. This actually went in quite straight. It didn't have to do any weird parallel parking thing. And just fold the wheels in. There we go. Base is ready. It all works. It all fits together. Turning on the lights, and these things are actually deployable, which is awesome. Some of them anyway, not all of them. But the little science module has a little telescope that pokes out of it. Oh, it's really nice. I love it. Yeah, Trans-planetary base systems is the mod. I think it's on CCAN. I like to use CCAN. The thing that organizes other mods for it. Anyway, here we are with the launch. It's this very similar rocket to the one we used last time, except it doesn't have the extra upper stage because the 2 base modules have their own engines and fuel on them. Even though the ascent vehicle did, it needed all of that fuel for the landing and the takeoff. And this is a lot lighter of a payload, so it doesn't need that extra 3rd stage. So it just uses this one, the upper one, and that's it. Though you can see it wobbling out of the fairing a bit, and then a little later I just turn it bit too harshly, and there it is. Boom! Yay, fun. It all goes boom, and this thing just continues off surprisingly stably. And didn't burn up either, but yeah, I turned a bit too harshly. It wasn't really connected very well. It just ripped itself apart. Anyway, another try here. This time, keep it a lot more under control. However, that leads to a terrible ascent, and the trajectory I'm on is pretty bad. Very steep, very not ideal. And yeah, the insertion burn ends up being a whopping 1,500 meters per second. Not where you want it. Usually want it under a kilometer if you can. Anyway, popping the fairing. Nice look at the two modules sort of side by side, because that's the most, well, it's easy to fit two of them together like that, and it also keeps the whole thing balanced. So if you only have one, it will just rip itself apart, pretty much. Using the engine a bit to stabilize me there, even though I ended up just doing the time warp thing anyway. I really am guilty of using that too much, but it's hard not to. Anyway, we're getting lined up, a couple seconds away, and we just throttle up and let us take us to space. The G-forces are insane. That is like very not realistic, I think. We were top 6.5 Gs on it. Careful not to blow the shroud back there. I didn't. I swear. I don't know why it happens. It's just weird. I never used to. I still avoid trying to do it, even though it really doesn't matter. I don't know why. Just for fun, I guess. Extra little challenge in there. Yeah, this orbit ends up being terrible. It's 109 by 73. Not the best. Not the worst, but definitely not the best. I'm just messing with the nodes to get the encounter rate. And we're off. Hopefully looking very nice in space. Using a pretty big engine. I could have used a smaller one for more efficiency, but I was being impatient, and this gave me enough delta V to do it, so why not? Being very careful, trying not to over or underdo it, trying to get the maneuver right, even though from Kerbal orbit, trying to get a encounter right in Duna, especially with a really powerful engine, even using the thrust limiter can be pretty difficult, pretty finicky with the whole maneuver node system and whatnot. As you can see, it wobbling back and forth crazily. Although that's probably because I'm really far away from this maneuver. This is the next maneuver. This is an orbital correction way out in solar orbit, but it's fine. It's only 3 meters a second. Still the half clouded Kerbal. Don't know why that happens. It's just weird. And we're just cruising through, seeing all the planets go by. Trying to get the encounter nice and slow, using the thrust limiter at the lowest possible setting I could get it. Very easily inching it in, and still end up hitting the planet. With that, I'll fix that later, don't worry. Wow. It's just absolutely all over the place, isn't it? Look at that thing bouncing around. And it just switching to hyper speed here. It's like 32 times speed through the transit, just because it takes a little while. Making a couple corrections along the way. And you can see the trajectory I end up on is one that's going like perpendicular straight into the planet. I've done that before. You cannot land. Trust me. You just can't do it. Anyway, of course I need to go into orbit because I need to land on a specific spot, not anywhere. So I have to correct that, get out to a nice periapse of about 55-ish. And then I can coast down and begin the insertion. See Ike orbiting around for some reason. Like, I've been getting really lucky. Ike hasn't been bothering me. I thought it would, but it just never really has. It's just been getting lucky, really. And yeah, about to start our insertion now. So yeah, of course I am going to have to land each of these two modules individually. I'm not going to do them at the same time, partly because one of them doesn't even have parachutes, so I couldn't really. Well, I could, but I want to do it one at a time. It'll be more fun, it'll be more practice. Just finishing up this orbit, making it nice and pretty. And there we are. Just orbiting around. Make sure our landing site's in the daytime, because you always want it to be in the daytime. Landing at night when you don't need to is just a pain. Can't see anything. And you can't see anything on the video especially, which isn't nice. Yeah, so because I'm landing them individually, I'll only be able to use that upper stage to help out with the landing for one of them. So because one of them has parachutes, I'm going to have it help the one without parachutes, which makes sense to me. So it can eject it with that decoupler. The Planetary Base Systems mod does come with special decouplers and adapters and whatnot for all of your coupling needs. If that one drifts off, I'll land it later. You send this one down, and yes, it is going to be super off balance. And also the maneuver node was on the other thing, so I have to make another one. And we're just gonna coast around, wait till the maneuver to come up in about a minute game time, that is. And we can do a lot of our descent with this engine, actually. First the initial kind of burn. I know I'm not doing this in the most efficient way. Of course, the most efficient way is to just start your descent and then do a suicide burn at the end. That's hard to do without instrumentation telling you when to do it, otherwise you have to guess. So I like to kind of keep it as steady as I can. This thing is wobbling quite. Whoa! Yeah, so to fix that, I put it into a spin, which will help kind of counteract the center of mass not being where it should be. It'll spin it around and it will effectively make it over where it should be, even though not really. So it's not as stable as having an actual good center of mass, but it's pretty close, and it does the trick if you're ever in a situation like that. Again, I tend to undershoot for whatever reason, so I have to sort of delay my impact with the ground there with that little radial burn. Just finishing off this fuel. Throwing down as much velocity as I can. I know it's not efficient, but I want it to be. I do have to switch to the descent. Oh yeah, that happens. So the staging is weird. The engines didn't activate, and I blew off the wheels to drive. So, which isn't the worst thing though, because this does have. Well, I mean, this is the hub module, so it doesn't really need to drive. Everything needs to drive to it. So as long as I don't make that mistake again, we're fine. But that's only as long as I don't make that mistake again. I accidentally cut out some of the video there. That's my bad. This is the same attempt, the same thing, same descent, just a little later. And it wasn't that long, it was only about a minute of just coasting down. But here we are next to the Polaris probe, about to doing the terminal descent, being inefficient with our fuel again, but we have tons of it, so it's fine. And just coasting down to the ground. And of course, your thrust-to-weight ratio will increase as you burn the fuel, so you have to constantly lower the throttle to avoid flying off into infinity. This is actually a very nice landing. I'm pretty proud of it, considering there's no help at all from parachutes or anything. Very straight, very controlled, very low touchdown speed. You'll see it's under 2 meters per second, which is really nice. I think it's a bit weird to control because like the yaw and the roll seem to be inverted to what they should be, but it's fine. They're not actually, just because this is like a rectangle and not a cylinder rocket thing, it kind of makes it weird. Yeah, but I'd landed on a big slope, so I decided to take off again, jump over somewhere a bit flatter, because I wasn't going to do that. And I get a little unstable here because I had a big fast takeoff, and I do a little pirouette after I land, but that's alright. They'll have to pick up some of the coffee cups that fell off the tables in there. They'll be fine. You can see the Polaris probe there if I adjust the camera. If I turn it the other way, you can see the ascent vehicle. So that's nice. Now it is time to land the greenhouse module. And once I switch to that, there we go. Okay. Planning its descent. This is going to have to do it all by itself. No help from an extra stage here. Oh, by the way, these are all being powered by RTGs. I know it's not super realistic, especially considering there are like 2 per module, but I really should have had solar panels. Yeah, it's okay though. We can pretend. But yes, because this one does have parachutes, landing it purely with engines is fine, and I did give them all enough fuel to do a soft landing even without engines if they needed to. Although the controls here are still set to when it was attached to the rocket, it's not switched over to the landing controls, so that would have been really bad if I did that. Would have went the complete opposite direction. You probably noticed that I wasn't facing retrograde at all. But luckily I see that in time. That will come back to bite me later, doing that same mistake, but it's alright. We're good here. I'm coasting down through the very thin atmosphere. It doesn't really slow me down much. Kind of expected it would at least a little more, but I don't notice it. In fact, all I notice is it just making my crafts more hard to control rather than slowing me down. So it's really working against me, actually, except the parachutes do help at the end. But yeah, killing off a lot of that horizontal velocity with that burn, just trying to get myself centered, losing control a little bit, but it's fine. Passing over the target now, we're all good. Time to coast to victory. Another little upward burn just to extend out the landing zone so I don't land too short. I keep landing short. I have a habit of doing that rather than overshooting, but it's not that bad. It's probably a good thing. Popping the chutes, just coasting down. These slowed me down a lot more. I thought I'd be going at like maybe 20 meters per second still, but the 4 parachutes, or the 8 rather, really does more than you'd think. So I only have to give it a tiny little kick at the end. The engines to make sure I have a nice slow speed, and we're good. Landing with the hill, and now I just have to drive up. Wheels are all intact, so we're all set. It's only about 560 away. It was pretty close landing, really. Happy about that. It doesn't drive super fast, but at 4 times speed it's about 12 meters per second effectively, so it's fine. Yeah, these modules may look small, especially when you zoom out, but if you keep in mind that's a door on the back of it, a full door for a full person or Kerbal, so at least for the Kerbals this is basically the size of a house when it's all put together. Maybe a smaller house, but it's fine. I end up docking these together more smoothly than I did on the ground, straight in. So go in, retract the wheels, retract the landing gear. There we are, all set. Extend out the windows and the greenhousiness stuff, whatever you call it. And yeah, have a botanist, our own Mark Watney. Hopefully not, we don't want that situation. Anyway, I will leave you with a screenshot here from the ejection burn with a nice plume in the background. Have a fantastic